You want to see this card. This is the best card in the deck. I'm almost certain of it. Hey everyone, it's Isaac from True Champion Gaming, and I get to go over a Wind Tristan deck with you guys. Now, fair warning, this is a little bit more of a casual deck. There are some really cool things you can do to surprise your opponent to actually just take some wins for sure. Also, sorry about the new camera angle. Just trying something new. If you like it or don't like it, let me know in the comments below. I just tried this out for the time being. So, but yeah, let's just jump right into the deck. So like I said, this is a little more casual deck. And we are playing Wind Tristan, or we are playing the Wind Spirit. There are, of course, the Fire Xander, and you can try doing stuff with that, but the big reason to play this is that it's a little more control-y, and you can protect your stuff better than you can in Fire. So we are trying to build a little bit more of a board, and so Wind is great for trying to protect our units. Of course, we have the level 1 Xander. This is great because, Glimpse 2 is nice, and the preparation counter is actually pretty big, so if you do have a floating memory, being able to use your materialization to get a prep counter, because there is no other way from materialization to get a prep counter. This is, well, I should say an instant prep counter. This is really good. So if you have a floating memory, definitely go into that, because that's really nice. Of course, level 2 Tristan. I will say this deck is slightly different from the one I played against on Terry that I put up. The video should be up on this past Friday. This should be going up on Monday. So just a couple of days ago, it's slightly different. I accidentally changed the list up on accident and then remembered, oh, I was supposed to record a deck profile. So there are some differences. It's pretty much the same. There is just a little bit more control in this deck and a little more safety in this deck, but it still has those huge combos that I was able to pull out on Terry and almost take him down with. So Tristan, great, really cool card. Doesn't see much play. We're bundling this with Windwalker Boots here. So Windwalker Boots and Tristan both have at the beginning of end phase. If your champion is awake, or if Tristan is awake, you get a prep counter, and you get to put a prep counter on. So with these two, you get 2 prep counters at the end of your turn if you have not attacked. So that's kind of a huge deal, obviously. We have ways to restand our champion, and so if we don't want to, miss out on double prep counters, we can always try to restand them at the very end to get more. We do play a 0 Protective Trinket. This is against the Fire matchups. We also, you'll see later, we do run Raccoons in the sideboard. Great against the Super Fire aggro. This delays them by a turn and gives us time to pull out our own combos. We are running GCR. GCR, great in this deck. You do go pretty low on hand count. You're trying not to. There's a couple cards that give you the benefit of not having that happen, but Grand Crusader Ring. I did think about Grail, and there are some fun things you can do with using Quicksilver Grail, but GCR just ends up being better. Poison Coating Oil, like this card a lot. We have a lot of stealth, decent amount of stealth units. This has actually got worse in this version of the Tristan deck that I made. It is better in the more aggro version I made because we ran more stealth units, but still very good card to give just a +2 damage. The next ones I'm going to bring out are the Smoke Bombs and Blinding Orb, and I would actually probably change one of these out, or even Tithe Proclamation here for Orb of Choking Fumes. I meant to put that in and just kind of forgot to. These are good cards to mess with your opponents. Of course, this, on your turn is a little more safety. This on your turn is able to get through, a blocker, and this, if you think they're, going to draw a crazy amount of cards. Also, all 3 of them would draw you a card at some point, so that's really nice in this deck. We run Assassin's Ripper because this is a way to get big damage on our combos for attacks. Great card with this deck. It feels kind of bad to get out sometimes because our deck doesn't feel like it has a ton of floating memory early. It definitely does mid to late, but early on, I mean, there was times that even in the game from Friday, I just ended up getting rid of 1 from memory and getting this out on board because it is that strong to be able to do a ton of damage in 1 turn. And finally, play Sword of Seeking. We play this because just in case we don't have Assassin's Ripper, or if we want to do some kind of attack later on, this just boosts our attack and gives us a little extra damage, and especially for 1 card later on as well, you'll see. Now let's move on to the main deck. We play 4 Poised Strike because this is the best card in the deck. I am almost for sure of it. This card gives you the ability to restand your champion on hit. So if you prepare it for 1, our champion rests, and then if we hit the, whatever hitting ally or champion, it restands. So, and if we have Boots out and if we have Tristan out, this is basically, even though we rested and used 1 prep, at the end of our turn we'll gain 2 prep counters, so it's worth it in the end. Also, this is how you do the insane combos. So with Assassin's Ripper here, being able to Poise Strike with Assassin's Ripper, so you do need 2 prep counters to make this work. So you rest, Assassin's Ripper, remove a prep counter, and then you Poise Strike for a total of 6, also preparing 1 here, so that's 2 prep counters, and then it allows you to restand, and then you can Poise Strike again, or you can use another attack card again to deal even more damage. And with that combination, you're doing, like I saw on Friday on our last video, I did 12 damage to Terry in 1 turn. So that's a way to get huge damage. Of course, Assassin Ripper does break, but after doing 12 damage, you're pretty happy. So Poise Strike, definitely very solid. Early on, if you see that you have a bunch of prep counters, Thieving Cut is great to help you dig and do a little extra damage. Also, still very good to combo with Poise Strike, because you can Poise Strike and Assassin's Ripper on the first swing, and on the second swing you can do Thieving Cut and also draw if you have an extra prep counter there as well. So solid card. I like this card a lot more than I thought I would in the deck. It feels great to do early on, especially if you just have 1 prep counter. Like, well, I guess I'm swinging face, and dealing damage and drawing a card feels really good. So, and then finally play 3 coup de grace. In my deck against Cherry, I did only run 2 of these, and I think, again, I would do 2. This doesn't happen very often. I was able to do it, I believe, in game 2, just for the fun of it, but boy, oh boy, did it not feel good. So, as much as I'd like coup de grace to work, just right now, I feel like I wasn't able to do so. Then we play 4 Korhazi Outlook. This card is amazing. It gives you a prep counter and allows you to mess with your opponent on your turn. So most of the time, if you try to use this ability where you remove a prep counter and opponents can't activate cards on this turn, they're going to respond with an action because they think that you're going to be able to do something really cool, and they don't want that to happen. So they'll play protective, they'll play their resolute stand. I didn't do this against Terry, but this is a really great way to mess with your opponent, and especially if you're getting a bunch of extra prep counters from Tristan and Windwalker Boots, definitely mess with their head and use this on your turn early, even when they're not going to die or anything like that, because you get value out of them messing up. Next we play Black Market Broker here. I am not 100% sold on this card. It feels pretty okay just for the prep counter. It just is so expensive. But we do like the prep counters, especially in the matchups where we're not able to get into Tristan. This does feel pretty good. So if Tristan is out and also Windwalker Boots is out, this feels worse. If we don't have that out, this feels better. So it's a double-edged sword. It is a decent sized body, and it can gain stealth once we have a bunch of prep counters. So not the worst, but just not my favorite card on the deck. Next we have Lurking Assailants. Honestly, this is one of my favorite cards too. It just feels like a solid statted body that has stealth when it's awake, which is kind of usually when it matters with this card, and then has the +1 ability, which I haven't really used that much, and maybe there's a better way to mess with your opponent if you do have this awake, but most of the times I just wanted to go face or use Poison Coating Oil on this to go face. Next we play Ace and Protector. So with this card, this is what you're using to bounce Korhazi Outlook and a couple other cards just to keep them for safety. But really, mainly, you're just trying to get this on board, so it has Intercept, and it's a big 3/4 body, just like we do in our Lorraine decks here on the channel. But it is really good to bounce Korhazi Outlook. So this card is great in combination with that, because then we get more prep counters later on, and it's, of course, a big body, so love that card. Next, we have 3 Cunning Broker. If we're playing a more long, grindy matchup, and we do have a bunch of, if we have Tristan and Windwalker Boots out, this just allows us to draw an extra card per turn. I think I would actually cut this down to 2. There's usually other stuff you're wanting to play and use your prep counters for on your turn, so this just doesn't get as much value. Like Thieving Cut is costs 1, deals 3, and draws you a card. Now this is a repeated effect, and this does have stealth, so Poison Coating Oil can go on this, so it allows it to attack. But most of the time, I didn't play this. Then we're going on to our more floating memory, style package here with our Swift Recruits. It's an Intercept. It has floating memory. It's a 1/2 for 2. It allows you, give you a target for ASIN to bounce. Not the worst card, to play on turn 1, just in case they, if they kill it, you got floating memory. So just of course, solid card as always with Swift Recruit. Next we have 4 Reclaim. This is great again to pair up with Kurhazi Outlook. That is the star of the show in terms of allies. You know, bounce this to your hand, gain a floating memory, save an ally, all good stuff there. So not much to say about Reclaim. It's just always a solid card. Next we play 4 Fast Cure. So this is one of the changes I made with this deck versus the one I played against Terry. This gives us a little more protection against stuff like Fire Rye or Fire just aggro Lorraine. You go pretty low pretty fast in cards in hand and in memory, so you almost always have this influence ability to recover 4, and then of course it's a floating memory that is fast, which is a big deal with people running raccoons. So being able to do this at your opponent's end step is really solid, and of course it's a jail free card kind of. Next we play 3 Ensnaring Fumes. This is a great way to protect your board and also remove your opponent's board. So some cool stuff you can do is, try to go face and maybe they don't intercept or maybe they don't block or whatever, and they think they have you on the next turn. Waiting on your turn to both protect your allies and remove their stuff from board is great, and it also has floating memory. So you're able to play this for free if you remove 3 prep counters, and if you're going for those long games where you're playing Tristan and those Windwalker boots, you'll have 3 prep counters for sure. So very solid card to both protect and gain a little bit stuff from your material deck. Next we play 4 Dream Fairy. This is also a very solid card in the deck that we do want to protect and bounce to our hand, because being able to send stuff to the opponent's memory and also get rid of interceptors is huge. This is a really easy way for us to deal with Majestic Spirit. We play this, we bounce Majestic Spirit to their material deck, and now they have to get it out again, which just makes it more difficult for them, and we only we paid 3 to do so. It also has stealth, so Poison Coating Oil, again, great target for that. It's just a really solid card and a really good defensive and offensive card for us. Extortion Scheme. This is, we play 4 of these. Pretty solid. There's a moment in game 2 where I definitely should have used this, and I got it mixed up with Arrow Trap in my head, because this does suppress an ally. So this would have been great to use on opponents' ASINs to make them bounce something to hand, or stuff like Tide Diviner, where if they don't want to mill, maybe it's Water Merlin and they're level 9 and they pay the Tide Diviner to mill 10 cards from their deck. Basically, here's how you can make them mill another 10 by suppressing their Tide Diviner and making that happen. So pretty solid. Of course, gives us prep counter, so we're always stacking those prep counters in this deck. Next we have Arrow Trap. Again, another great way to kill big things in this deck, so we aren't too worried about stuff like Sylvie, because we can prepare this for 1, and if an attacking ally is coming in at us, we can just kill it with this as long as we prepared it. Of course, at worst, it also just allows us to bounce our own attacking thing to hand if we wanted to try to get like another more value out of something like Dream Fairy or some weird combo. So definitely don't always prepare it, because you also can use it on your own attacking allies. So you won't get the damage, but you will be able to put something back into your hand that you might really want for later on. And finally, we play 3 Inspiring Call. I think a big mistake people do with this card is waiting until they have like 4 or 5 allies on board. This is a great card that if you can swing like something with like Sword of Seeking to just put on 2 allies. If you can get 2 attack out of this for 1, because it'll cost 1 if your leader swings. So it's a 1 cost, get 2 damage and draw a card into memory so it replaces itself. That's a good enough play. If you're getting any more value than that, I would say play it. So at 2, I would say is your minimum. At 1, if you're desperate just to search for something, it's fine because it does replace itself basically. So don't try to squeeze a ton of value out of this. If you can't, that's okay. Just try to go for I would say 2 or more damage on it. The last thing I'll talk about is the side deck and the sideboard. This is definitely different from the sideboard I did in Terry's game, because when I played that and I built that deck, I didn't have a sideboard because I totally forgot about it. So I ended up putting every bauble and every trinket, so that way we always had a bauble and trinket to play against whatever color we're playing against. In this one, I do play in the sideboard 4 Ravaging Raccoon. This, of course, is against fire. It's really solid even against not fire. We have ASINs and a bunch of stuff to be able to bounce it, so this is a very solid card to put into the deck against anything that we would do, use as a graveyard. So we have a lot of ways to get this back in our hand to reuse it too if we only see 1 or 2 of them. So this also allows us, of course, to use stuff like Ensnaring Fumes on it to get like multiple back to hand if we really wanted to, and because this is just all allies. So we would get any raccoons that we have on the board back to hand, even for free prep counter, so it's free. So we can even do that on our own turn if we really wanted to play another Scavenging Raccoon right away. And then we also play Resolute Stand. If there are any on-soul players that we're playing against, this is really good against it. It's also really good against, of course, Wind Ally Beats, because they do a lot of smaller attacks, usually around 3-4 damage, and this can block a lot of damage from our champion, or maybe a specific unit that we are really trying to protect. It's really good in combination with anything that has Intercept, because you can put this on an Interceptor and it can block all damage from face and also protect that unit itself. So definitely a nice combo there for our sideboard. As far as the deck goes, it is a little more casual, but it definitely can have those crazy moments where you're dealing 12, 14 just from your leader's attack in one turn, and that can be a very surprising thing from someone who was not expecting it. So very fun deck. I do like the deck. It probably, to make it a little more competitive, probably needs a little more tweaking. Like I said, I would take some of those like coup de grace out. While I was able to get it off once in game 2 of mine and Terry's game, it didn't feel good, and I was definitely doing it more for the fact that I don't get to do that very often, and maybe it makes them play in a different way. So, if you see any improvements, please leave a comment below on how I can improve it or how you think might be better to go in a different direction. But in any case, thank you so much, guys, for watching and subscribing and all that stuff, guys. Appreciate you. Have a great day. Peace.